Alright, we're going to try to make this a quick one, but you never know. Hey guys, Brent MMA USA here, and today's video is going to be the Dan Wesson ECP versus the Glock 36. Both of these pistols are chambered in 45 ACP. Some people might call me insane for comparing a $2,000 pistol to a practical $500 pistol, so you could buy 4 of these or 4 different variation model Glocks for the price of one Dan Wesson enhanced compact pistol. And I understand that mindset, I really do. But I gotta tell you, the Dan Wesson does bring a lot to the table as far as a carry piece, comparing straight to a Glock 36. And of course, that's really what we're talking about here. However much somebody spends on their pistol, it really, at the end of the day, in my opinion, doesn't matter. What matters is how serviceable the pistol is for the person buying it, how the pistol feels, how usable is that pistol for you as far as a carry piece. And for me personally, comparing these two, I'll be honest, the 1911 kind of beats out the Glock for me, and I'll show you why, okay? Both pistols, 45 ACP. The Glock is a 6+1 polymer magazine, metal lined. Over here, Dan Wesson ECP, full-size 1911 frame, 4-inch barrel. You can shove an 8-round magazine from like Wilson Combat or Tripp Research or this Chip McCormick railed power mag. So you got 8+1 with the Dan Wesson versus 6+1 with the Glock. Side by side here, that is about how much of a difference you're looking at in grip length. And of course, putting it on top here, yeah. Slightly longer barrel with the 1911 compared to your Glock. I believe this is a 3.7-inch barrel. So you're going to get slightly more velocity out of the ECP, and you're going to get a little more ammunition. Standard magazine that you could shove in this would be a 7-rounder. Since we're still talking about magazines, the 1911, you've got a lot more options as far as magazines. You could shove a 10-round Wilson Combat magazine in there, or a Metgar mag, Tripp Research, whatever extendo you want to into it. Glock 36, you're stuck to more 6+1, or you can get the extended mag. The extended mag, in my opinion, on the Glock looks a little ridiculous. I actually had some experience of using that on the Glock 36. It ain't bad, but 1911 magazines are more plentiful out there. You have a higher capacity for sure with the 1911 versus the Glock 36. Make sure you get good quality 1911 magazines, right? People will talk crap about the Glock mags, and I'll say I'm not a huge fan of it to a certain degree on the 36 because of the way it releases as a lefty. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a sec. Again, talking about the magazines, you can run into some issues with the 1911 if you don't run good quality magazines with good quality followers and all that. Specifically talking about this Dan Wesson marked magazine that might have came with this pistol or one of the other DWs, but either way, this magazine will not lock back pistol. So that's an issue with the stock factory Dan Wesson mag made by Checkmate. Love the safety, super positive, very tight. That's the way you want it to be. No need to change that plunger spring or anything like that to a Wilson Combat spring. Slightly extended magazine release right there. Nice, super high quality, feels tremendous when pressing it and using it. Looking back at the bob-tailed frame here, really well beveled magazine well. Makes it tremendous when you're putting in a fresh mag. Interesting. So talking about the Checkmate mags, you see it right here, it is not locking back. Now let's try this magazine. What do you know? Live on camera, showcasing the difference in 1911 magazines and quality levels and stuff like that. So for some odd reason, this follower is not wanting to lock back on the Checkmate mag, but again, on the Chip McCormick mag, no problems. What about the 10-rounder? There you go. Interesting. Now you got me wondering, will it work in this bad boy? Look at that, it's wanting to falsely lock it up. Interesting. Let's try the 10-rounder. Positive lockback. Interesting. Wilson Combat ETM mag. There you go, guys. That's a live representation of why sometimes I don't trust Checkmate magazines. The only magazines I really trust for serious use are CobraMags, the Chip McCormicks, or the Wilson Combat mags. Again, here's your Checkmate mag. I mean, again, it's not wanting to lock back, and then it just tried to like falsely lock it back, trying to get stuck on something. Anyway, very strange. Two different pistols having issues with this magazine, and I didn't expect it to have an issue, and you can see it is a DW marked magazine. And that's why you get quality magazines, you guys. Again, Chip McCormick, Tripp Research, or Wilson Combat. So, less likely to run into issues with the Glock 36 and its magazines. That's just fact. Because 1911s are notoriously finicky if you run a cheaper quality magazine, in my experience. And I've shot a lot. Now, talking about the apples to oranges comparison, you've got a striker-fired pistol with the Glock versus a single-action-only hammer-fired pistol with the 1911. So that means this hammer has to be cocked back every time for this 1911 to work properly and fire. So again, every time the slide cycles, your 1911 hammer will cock back, letting you be able to light this thing off and shoot the fire out of it. But again, cock back, hammer, that means that this thing is ready to fire if the safety is disengaged like so. But again, with the 1911, you have multiple safeties. You've got the safety right here. This is a manual thumb safety. You've also got a beaver tail grip safety back here. This is a passive style safety if you grip the pistol. You've also, of course, got your trigger, and that safety is in between your ears, knowing when the right moment is to press that trigger to the rear. In comparison with the Glock, pistol has to be cocked, of course, for the striker to be active, and then you've got your safe action style trigger with that little dingus in the middle of the trigger there. So the trigger has to be pressed from the middle of the trigger to be able to activate that trigger. If you press it on the side without pressing that little safety in the middle of the trigger, you ain't got no action here. You gotta depress that little lever in between, then you got action. And it is a staple gun-like trigger on the Glocks. Here's the reset on this Glock 36. That is a good Glock trigger. This is the more utilitarian design. Most people would be able to pick this thing up and make it be able to run. If you don't know the manual of arms of a 1911 and about its safeties and all that stuff, or having to cock the hammer back, you won't be able to run a 1911 because it's just more complex than a Glock. It's a reason why most civilians and most law enforcement agencies have moved to the Glock, is for its simplicity and ease of use. How is the beaver tail grip safety fit on this? For a production 1911, this is pretty nice. Little bit of movement when depressed. Pretty well blended, not bad at all. How is it sensitized? Let's check that. How far do we have to press in on the grip safety before we get activation of the trigger? About 45%, I would say. There it is. And that's the extra movement. There we go. Really nicely sensitized beaver tail on this Dan Wesson. Flat wire recoil springs. According to Dan Wesson's website, the ECP should run about 15,000 rounds or 15,000 cycles of the slide. Dan Wesson is running a match rate barrel. Again, both these pistols are chambered in 45 ECP, and then looking at the slide there, you can see that the Dan Wesson has a lowered, flared, and relieved, over here on the right, ejection port. So a well-machined ejection port. Tri-top style design on the ECP and the TCP. Brass bead front sight. Fully serrated top strap at the slide. Well blended back of the slide and frame, as far as talking about the ejector over here and the extractor here on the right. Very nice. Dan Wesson is also running thin profile grips. Dan Wesson square tactical hammer right here. Nice profile to that hammer. Looks really good, and it is duty coated so it won't rust. It's one of the big problems with most of the Dan Wessons is that Dan Wesson isn't duty coating their hammers, so they rust. Just what happens, guys. Feed ramp, show you guys that. The Dan Wesson has a fully ramped barrel. So a full feed ramp here to fully protect the alloy frame on this, so they actually cut around the alloy frame to fit that style of barrel. The ECP, you got 25 lines per inch checkering on the front strap, and again, yeah, 25 again on your mainspring housing, which is bobtail. Adds to the concealment factor anyway. And the ECP, if I remember right, it feels more like almost 5 pounds. Let's see what it reads at. 5 pounds. We're just gonna go with that. Dan Wesson ECP. Again, self-defense trigger. A tremendous trigger on the ECP.
Does not have an exterior safety on it. It just has a safe action trigger. Get ourselves some trigger pulls here. Because when I was messing with it earlier, I could have swore it was more like 6 pounds and not the 5.5 pounds. So let's see. 5 pounds, 7.5 ounces. Let's do it again. I do have an empty magazine in there because sometimes that makes a difference. 5 pounds, 9 ounces. So 5 pounds, 8 ounces, and 5 pounds, 9 ounces on the 661. And let's try the 861. Trying to get it at a little bit of an angle and then pulling more straight back is what I'm going for here, folks. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. 5 pounds, 3.5 ounces. And I'll do one more just to make sure that I got 3 good pulls on this one. 5 pounds, 13 ounces. There you go for some Glock triggers.
Talking about the specific Glock 36, what am I running on it? I'm running a Pierce grip extension on the 6-round magazine, so that gives it a slightly more ergonomic profile to grip the pistol. Also, I'm running a grip frame plug back here, a set of night vision night sights, orange, high fluorescent paint on the front sights, 2-dot, wide outline rear, square profile notch, again from night vision. Super high quality sights, and a terrific side picture. Also running a little Grim Reaper back there. Again, this isn't a carry gun for me specifically, this specific Glock 36. I have my other Glock 36 set up for an actual EDC carry. This is more of a just range toy, this Glock 36. Something I was kind of surprised by the way, I wanted to mention, this Mica's pocket holster from my SIG P320 subcompact actually fits the Glock 36 as well. Pretty impressive. This is a true pocket rocket. Oh, I just remembered something that I wanted to talk about. So I talked about earlier the magazines. So pistol lock back to the rear, of course. Empty magazine, let's try to release it. It got caught up in the gun. And that's from me trying to press the magazine release, my index finger. I can't get the magazine to drop out of the pistol as hard as I press on that magazine from the side of being a left-handed shooter. Of course, now, from the side of a righty, not a single issue. At all. That is a issue from being a left-handed person and trying to run the Glock 36. The magazines stick ever so slightly while trying to press on the magazine release. Thought you guys would find that interesting. Again, quality guns, both of these. Price ranges, you're looking again at $400 to $500, maybe $550 for a Glock 36 if you get a brand new one with a little rail attachment on the end. Versus $1,700, maybe $1,800, maybe a little bit less if you get a blend model like this specific ECP, but both super high quality carry options. If you want the polymer frame, lighter weight pistol, ease of use, you're looking at the Glock 36. If you don't mind the extra heft, more firepower, the safeties on the 1911, I present you with the Dan Wesson ECP with the bull barrel, 19 by God 11. Appreciate you guys watching this video. You guys have a great one. And don't forget to vote this election season. And as always, remember, your Second Amendment is worth protecting.